Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a programming language that has this totally unique philosophy, and it's powering some of the biggest real-time apps you probably use every day. All right, so let's just jump right in. We're going to start with a company that honestly is doing something that seems pretty much impossible. I'm talking about Discord.
So get this, at any given moment, Discord is juggling over 12 million people online at the same time. And that's not all. They're pushing more than 26 million events, like messages and status updates, every single second. Just think about that scale for a minute.
Okay, that's a crazy amount of traffic, right? But here's the kicker, the part that's going to blow your mind. The core team that's responsible for all of that, it's just 5 engineers. Yeah, you heard that right, 5.
So that just begs the question, right? How is that even possible? How can a team that small build and maintain something that operates at that kind of insane scale? Well, the answer is they have a secret weapon, and it's a language called Elixir. But here's the thing. To really get what makes Elixir so special, we actually have to go back in time, way back, because its power comes from a technology that was designed to solve a totally different problem almost 40 years ago. So check out this journey. It all kicks off back in the 80s at Ericsson, the telecom giant. They had a huge problem. They needed to build telephone systems that could basically run forever, for decades, without failing. And out of that need, a language called Erlang was born. So, fast forward a few decades, and this new language, Elixir, comes along. The whole idea was to take Erlang's battle-tested, super reliable foundation and slap a modern, friendly syntax on top of it. And just a year after its 1.0 release, Discord went all in on it. Okay, so the secret sauce to Erlang's, and by extension Elixir's, incredible reliability is this. Well, it's a pretty radical and kind of counterintuitive idea, and you can sum it all up in just 3 little words.
Let it crash. That's the quote from Joe Armstrong, the creator of Erlang. Now, instead of trying to write a bunch of defensive code to catch every single possible error, the whole system is designed to just let individual parts fail. Fail fast and fail cleanly. And this is the absolute core of something called concurrency-oriented programming.
Think of it like this. It's a great analogy. Your application isn't one big monolithic thing. Instead, it's made up of thousands or even millions of tiny, completely independent virtual computers. They can't share memory, so if one of them has a problem and crashes, it can't take its neighbors down with it. It's totally isolated. So that leads to the crucial question, how does the system actually recover?
Well, it uses this really simple but incredibly powerful pattern. You have these specialized processes called supervisors. Their only job in life is to watch other processes, which we call workers. So, if a worker hits some unexpected error and crashes, poof, its supervisor sees it happen instantly. And what does it do? It just restarts the worker in a fresh, clean state. This whole system isolates the fault and lets the application literally heal itself automatically.
So let's look at how this all comes together today. Elixir basically takes this incredibly robust 40-year-old foundation and wraps it all up in a package that modern developers just find a total joy to work with.
And you see this all the time. Developers are constantly praising its features, like its clean syntax. Things like pattern matching make handling all sorts of different scenarios super simple and clear, which is a world away from the tedious error checking you have to do in a lot of other languages.
And listen, this isn't some niche academic tool. Elixir and its underlying platform are trusted by a huge range of companies, we're talking big names, to run their absolutely critical systems. Everything from Discord and PepsiCo to Mozilla and Change.org. So, with all that said, should everyone just drop what they're doing and switch to Elixir? Well, not so fast. Like any tool, it's got its own set of trade-offs, and it's really important to understand them, especially when you compare it to other popular languages out there, like Go. When you put them side by side, you see it's not about which one is better overall, but which one is the right tool for the job you're doing. Go often wins when it comes to raw single-core performance, and yeah, it has a way bigger hiring pool. But Elixir is pretty much unmatched when you're building those complex distributed systems, think chat apps, IoT, that absolutely have to be resilient and are easy to manage when they get massive.
And for teams like the one at Discord, the choice is crystal clear. The lead engineer there, Jake Hines, said it himself. What they do would just not be possible without Elixir. It allows them to hit a level of scale and reliability with a tiny team that would be incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible with other tech.
So I think the main takeaway here is this. While other languages might look faster on paper in a raw benchmark, Elixir's real strength lies in a completely different dimension.
It's all about building systems that can handle the messy reality of the real world, a world where things will inevitably always go wrong.
And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. We spend so much of our time as engineers trying to prevent every single error. Elixir asks a different question. What if crashing wasn't the problem to be avoided? What if instead it was a fundamental part of the design for a more resilient system? That's a question that might just change how you think about building software.